Isabella has worn many hats over her life, but those hats that have never worn out are many hats, that of writer, translator, editor, shaman, aromatherapist, teacher, and maker of skincare products. She published the Book of Beauty, Making Skincare Products with Ayurveda and Aromatherapy, and Paradox, Bilingual Muses Biling, a book of poetry. For the past few years, she has widened her creativity to include mixed media art and is currently a webmaster and board member for the Ottawa Mixed Media Association. Woven through her day to day life is her path as a seeker since 1997. Hello, Isabella.
Hi, Sahaj.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
So that bio is quite a bio. You've done a lot.
Well, I'm 63. I just turned 63 2 weeks ago. So it was a long stretch to experiment and do some living.
Cool. And so all of this happened kind of after you left your government job, because you left your government job many years ago. Did you not?
I left my job for government in 2010.
Okay.
But I mean, I've been a writer since I know how to write. And that was
Okay.
probably like when I was 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I
So
wrote
did you start
poetry
off with
in
creative
grade
writing?
6. Hmm?
Sorry. Did you start off with creative writing then when you were a young, like when you, as you said, when you were 5 or 6?
Um, I wanted to write books because we had our first library in school when I was in grade 2.
Okay.
And with the first book I read, I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I wanted it to be a big, thick book that doesn't end.
Wow. Okay.
Well, and then I waited until I was 52 to actually write my first book.
Wow.
But in the meantime, I always wrote. Like I kept a journal. I was always involved in the school newsletter, the high school newsletter, the newspaper and university, the yearbook. So, and I did it, my career in government as a writer. I was also a reporter in the biggest weekly newspaper in Quebec.
Wow. Okay. So writing is really something that's kind of followed you right through your life.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's
And
almost like breathing for you by the sound of
yeah,
it.
it's like I cannot imagine a day without writing, like even sending an email or
Okay.
I have to write. It's like,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's very interesting. So I'm curious then how, because you've experimented with other forms of creativity, and this is one of the reasons why I'm interested in doing this seeker series, because the path of a seeker is not necessarily a well-traveled path, and a lot of people don't even know what the path of a seeker is. And I'm speaking about the spiritual seeker, so
Yeah.
not religious per se, but going inward and knowing who we are at a deeper level, say
Mhm.
at the core of the spiritual journey.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even know I wanted to be a seeker. And then one day I was recovering from a burnout and I saw this ad in Tone magazine and it was our current teacher who was advertising, inviting students interested in shamanism. And I didn't even know what shamanism was, or I thought that was that. But over time, it's like I learned why the attraction. I learned also why I was so attracted to her. And I still did not know that I was a spiritual seeker then because it was around shamanism and herbalism and yoga, which she had not even named it yoga. So I didn't even know it was yoga.
Okay.
So for me, like I was entering totally new territory from a very innocent space.
Mm.
But what fascinated me all along was that she was an artist. And because I mean, and for me, writing was not an artist. It's just something simple I do.
Okay.
So, but I always wanted to, you know, paint and do these beautiful big paintings that would show up in museums, and I would want my books to win, Nobel Prize or some literary prizes.
Yeah.
But over time, it's like the one thing that struck me was through all the teachings, it's been live the ordinary life in a non-ordinary way. And for me, the non-ordinary way was shamanism, for one, because it deals with the energies that we don't necessarily see at first glance with our two daily eyes,
Right.
and also art, which seems like such an attainable world. But with her, it's like because she was breathing art as easily as I was breathing writing,
Right.
she put that in, or she weaved that through the teachings, where we would have a weekend retreat and we would have to do some painting, and then she would intervene. And that seemed like so exciting, but I never explored it outside of classes with her.
Right.
But and it's only like hmm, four, maybe 4 years ago, that I had left government. I had an accident, and I could not walk for a while, and I just wanted to go into a different direction. And I said, well, I kind of by accident or serendipity or whatever, I started doing a collage with, tissue paper and paper cutouts, and that gave me such joy. I said, "This is it." What I thought the most interesting is that we had to commit to produce art on a regular basis. So I could not, sit on my laurels with my first three, four paintings and go
Right.
nowhere.
Right.
And then COVID happened. So now nobody can exhibit in public anymore. So someone had the idea of doing an Instagram challenge, where every second week we produce something, and then it's put on the website, and then every second week. And then we realize that every second week is a bit short for
Right.
most people.
Right.
So we upgraded that. I had an image of what spirituality was, and I tried to integrate that, but I think because of the definitions, it kind of limited um, where I was going and how I was going through things, instead of just allowing the flow of who I was,
Right.
which I think in the end, um, all the spiritual work that we've done is invisible outside, but it kind of percolates things and germinate, allows things within to germinate and bring us in directions we never thought we would go ourselves. Or anyways, that was my perception.
Right.
I never
Right.
thought I would go to the direction of having a face to grace company making
Right.
skin products. Beauty was such a foreign concept for myself, and me becoming someone who takes care of other people's beauty, that was even stranger. But it was also very appealing, exciting,
Right.
an adventure, and it always pulled me to do more and expect more from myself.
So that that's it's fascinating to me, and how this is almost like it had a life of its own that
Yeah,
just kind of took you by momentum. But I want to go back to something that you said a few minutes ago, which was being an artist was more about allowing the process to take you, or I can't remember your exact words, as opposed to thinking you need to do something. from the mind perspective. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by
Yeah,
that?
definitely, because for me, the mind is such it predominates, or I hope that slowly it takes less room.
Yeah,
But with art, it's like, because I'm not an artist that draws very specific. Like
right.
because I never saw myself as an artist, and I had this definition of what an artist is.
I
The
can relate to
concept,
that. Yeah.
the concept of mixed media allowed me to express things, but not having an idea ahead of time what it will look like as a finished product.
And that kind
So,
of takes some of the pressure off, doesn't it?
God, does
In
it
a way.
ever? And
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be good. It's just it's
Good.
such, it's a, it's such a reflection of the notion of flow, of not forcing anything, of remaining simple. It's taking the steps to live instead of imagining how I should live.
Well, and that is a really, really important point because how many of us have, I think most people tend to live the life that they think they should be living, which
Hmm.
doesn't really allow them to live their life, right? Or be lived by life. And that sound, when I say be lived by life, it's not like something takes us and we have no conscious control over the process, not at all. I'm so, um, I love how you talked about this piece of just that kind of letting go of what you think should be done and just kind of allowing that those mixed media um, artistic designs to happen on their not on their own but through that flow that you're talking about. And I guess I'm having trouble articulating it because I want to articulate it a little bit more, so you know perhaps there's people watching that are like, well, how do you do that? How do you get into that place of allowing something to happen?
Well, that was a very interesting thing, because when I first started, I took a course with the Orange Gallery in Ottawa,
Mhm.
and there was the teacher arrived with boxes of paper clippings, of knickknacks of all kinds,
Okay.
and that was the starting point. I said, I have that. I've
Who
kept
doesn't have that?
exactly little bits of ribbon and lace and glue, and of course since then, because I became an addict at Dessert, the art material store.
Yes. Oh, I know them all in town. Very sad to
Wallets
that one of
and
them is closing their Desserts is closing their store locations and just staying in the online.
oh my, that's dramatic. It breaks my heart.
Right? Right. I was thinking the same thing. Because there's something about going in and being able to see and touch the things that you want to
Smell,
work with.
because you go in that store and it smells so differently than any other store. And because I'm an aromatherapist, I'm sensitive to that. But
Right.
it's the tactile aspect. But coming back to the integration part is like, another lesson that was very important for me,
Mm,
from our teacher, is simplicity.
yeah.
And when I realized that my designs, because when you start doing a collage, you cannot just glue every single piece. You have to layer things, leave certain parts that are not glued to slide under the other.
Ah,
So if my designs get too complicated, I
yeah.
said, the mind is at work.
Interesting.
So, okay, now start peeling off the pieces that are not necessary. Well, does that remind you of something else, you know?
So here's an interesting parallel, right? Between
Yeah,
you as a seeker and you as an artist and how they support and nurture one another.
exactly. It's more like they reflect one another.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know that when I create, I'm necessarily aware of the spirituality, but
It doesn't mean it's not sporting though, right?
exactly, it's like yeah,
It's like a dance.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so if I heard you correctly when you were saying it's kind of like when you take things away from your mixed media, when you see it's too busy and the mind has contrived more than it was meant to be contrived,
Mhm.
and so you start taking away from it. Are you kind of relating to purging or cleansing the bodies in a way?
I was not necessarily talking about the physical part.
Okay.
I
Well,
think those
I didn't
purgations or
forget
those
you
cinemas just
necessarily.
are so, but it's part of the process, right? I was thinking more about the emotional part, like the
Of course. It's funny, I went straight to the physical.
where my resistance is,
I don't know.
but also like the mind patterns, the limiting belief systems, the and that also exists inside the art, you know. So
Well, the
it's
art is gonna
kind of
reflect.
parallel. They're parallel and they reflect and they're interwoven.
To me,
So
from what you're saying, the art is reflecting what's actually going on inside of the mind. If the mind is empty, it reflects that.
yeah.
If the
Yeah.
mind is busy, it reflects that. If there's a lot of wind, like I've created this painting, I'm just going to show you on my wall here. And
Mhm.
it's so funny because someone had said, "Oh, I love that painting." And I was like, it's a little bit plain. So I thought, I'm just going to jazz it up a little bit. Well, it was in the fall and I had just moved, and my air element or vata was all over the place. And here's what transformed from that. It's not that it's ugly, but it's very, very busy,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
colorful. Honestly, it looked better before. I was very disappointed
So
by that.
that's another thing, the judgment and the thinking that you need to change.
Right.
That's another big concept. I
Or the
mean,
judgment that it doesn't look good because it's got too much air in it either. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's also times when um, the fire or the wind takes over and you just start splattering things and moving things, and then it looks good. How did that ever happen?
I know.
And
I know.
I want
It's
to
almost
show
like
you one piece.
sometimes I find the hands have a mind of their own, it's like, and that's
Yeah,
why I often paint with my hands because it's, I don't know. There's something about painting with my hands for me. Maybe it's because I used to be a massage therapist and I remember you said to me one time, you could do anything with your hands. And I was kind of like, I don't really know what you
yeah,
mean,
yeah, I remember that.
but
And I could not understand that you did not understand.
well, anyway, the hands seem to have a mind of their own. So sometimes they create paintings that I have no idea that this is going to
Yeah,
be.
I'll show you this one that I made. And I don't know if it's for me, it's like when I saw it at first, I said, what a mess. And then I said, wow, this kind of reflects passion.
Yeah,
And when I look at it, from a little bit of a distance, it's it you perceive depth and also a movement, a wave movement,
right.
which when I actually made it, I never spotted it.
Okay.
And, and then I got all kinds of reactions from I love it to I hate it from different people.
There's no neutrality with that painting, is there? Well,
But
when you
in the
look at it,
texture,
you don't, it's not neutral to look at. It doesn't produce
no,
a neutral response.
yeah. And I was not neutral either in making it. I think I was on fire. You
Mm,
were talking about air, but that's the fire piece.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's to allow what's there.
Yes. Good point.
And
Absolutely.
that's another analogy. It's another reflection of, okay, allow who I am, you
Yeah.
know?
I would love to see one of your mixed media. Um,
I'll show you one that I have right here. This one came from a workshop that I took part at the National Gallery here in Ottawa, and it was this woman who had different pieces. She was from Oriental descent,
mhm.
and her designs were so amazingly and beautifully simple. So I tried to do something simple, and it's still not that simple, but it's one that I love and love and love. And I don't know why, because really, it's not something that's necessarily beautiful, but it's has a lot to do with the moon,
Mhm.
and there's simplicity in there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah,
And this
so
very different style than some of your other mixed media that I've seen.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'm realizing with having a certain innocence and not having this definition of I'm a good artist,
Yeah.
that I don't have to stick with any style. I go different directions according to what's in my collage box at the moment. You know, sometimes I run out of pictures.
Mhm.
I have a tendency to use glitter and feathers and lace, but there's certain pieces I don't.
Right.
But one piece I like a lot
Mhm.
is
Let's see it.
this one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a collage with lace, and there's a feather there, beads, and it's certainly
See,
about.
I think this feels much more like what I've seen from you. I wouldn't say it's more you, but it's more of your kind of style that I've seen
Yeah,
from.
yeah, yeah. Another piece that was quite different and surprised me was when I came back from India last year, as
Yeah.
was like the first week of COVID, and it's another one.
Wow.
So it's paint,
Hmm.
but I also have like an onion bag, you
Uh-huh.
know, stuff.
I've used those in my paintings.
Yeah, it's very useful. And then there's a gel, so
Yes,
that was fun.
absolutely.
And then there's pieces that are more like they include the writing.
Okay.
So as like the book of poetry that I wrote was English and French, and even there's one story in there where there's both French and English in the same story. And I thought,
Okay.
oh, this is the equivalent. It has the painting, the collage,
Yeah.
and the writing. Then I have
Yeah.
this larger one,
Show us another
which
one.
is more like a description, I'd say, of the spiritual path.
Hmm.
So
How
sorry,
so?
it's like breaking through frames or constriction, and it's like the seeker looking to a castle, and even there, it was like definitions I had that broke the frame. It's like
Okay.
because it's the definitions that were so tight that I was actually growing at the time that actually broke the frame.
Can you explain that a little bit more? The
Um,
definitions breaking the frame. So it sounds like this has to do with limited beliefs and how they were keeping
exactly,
you constrained.
exactly. Like at one point you grow
Hmm.
and you become too tight. You become too large for whatever you had set yourself up for.
Okay.
So, and
Can
I think
you, give me-
that's
can you give me
the
a, like a more tangible example?
oh mon Dieu.
Yes.
Well, imagining that I'm not an artist, that I mean,
Say that
even the
again.
silence that
Imagining that you're not an artist.
exactly that was tight, that could not exist anymore. I had to break that frame,
And why
and
is
I'm
that? Because being an artist in your definition of a proper artist was too constricted? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it was limiting me in how I could express,
Okay.
because my definition of a real artist is like it has to be from the 16th or 17th or 18th or 19th century.
Okay.
They have to be in big, thick, beautiful art books like the Renoir and the Gauguin and the, you know,
Yeah.
and I knew so little of modern art. And even modern art, it seems from the books, is from the just the pre-war, the beginning of the 20th century.
Right.
And then there's other movements that have come since,
Hmm.
but I didn't know about the history of art. So
Hmm.
know, the more you pull on this little piece of wool string, as you have to make a proper ball to be able to knit properly.
Yeah.
So, and in that knitting, it's the discovering of the self and accepting that the flow within, or the flow that we allow in, is the divine, and it shows our own divine aspects which are not definable.
Yes. And are not, uh, you can't bind them, you can't package them, you can't
No.
explain them,
And they're not static.
and they're not static.
You cannot count that it will be there the next time you will move this other way, because it's another ball game. It's a different reality. It's a different um, exploration of life.
It's like a different realm completely, really.
Hmm.
It's not bound by the physical laws of being on earth.
Exactly.
Mm.
And yet, the laws of earth, in a sense, still bind you because you're in the physical body, and you still need to let your paint dry to put another coat of something else on top.
Yeah.
So there's a very tangible laws, and it's like to accept that, and with that keep moving.
And accept that, and also be, mm, I think the whole path of the seeker is, okay, accepting the physical laws, and at the same time allowing the infinite to come in and through you.
Mm-hmm.
Physical realm. It seems so paradoxical, but it's the whole path of the seeker is to unite the infinite with the finite, right? The
Yeah.
sky with the earth.
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
the whole work of a human being. It
Mm-hmm.
connects those two realms through the physical body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
This has been fun. It's been really, I love the parallels between the path of the seeker and the path of the artist, and how they really do support one another. It's almost like at some point in a seeker's path, the seeker will become an artist of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And it does, art could be building a house or building houses. It could be painting. It could be writing. It could be dancing. And these are kind of
Look at your cakes. I mean, that's another form of art and creativity.
baking, cooking.
Mm.
Sure.
Yeah.
Almost, in fact, anything we do can be art, right? The way we live can be artful or not. Yeah, I think the art is really, well, it's in the eye of the beholder, in terms of, if you are taking in that prana, that vital life energy, and um, living that flow, like in every moment, you're allowing that infinite to flow through you naturally. the senses are going to perceive more than, what we might see with our eyes and hear with our ears. And that, to me, that is being an artist in a way, because
Mhm.
artists don't tend to see what everyone else sees or
Yeah.
hears or
And I think that even grows in increments. There's the evolution, the evolution of the seeker. The
yeah,
more you grow, the more you see, the more you're willing to expand
yeah,
and to go beyond your comfort level. And then that's how we become stronger, yet more subtle, more sensitive, yet more resilient.
yeah,
So it's
yeah. You've touched on so many things. Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. It's so rich, in this conversation. It's been so rich to hear from you and to um to kind of bring together our different ways of expressing similar things.
Mhm.
There's a
And
richness.
imagine it's only your first interview. You'll have more.
Well, maybe. Maybe no one else we'll see. No, that's not true. 3 other people have already said that they will. So we'll see how it goes. And I think every interview is going to be really different. But I really am so grateful for you being willing to come and be my first interviewee today, with all of the realms of experience and wisdom that you bring. It's been such a rich, rich experience, and I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
I'm also glad that you asked me because these are not necessarily things that I would have thought of on my own. It's just the actual conversation that stirs and welcomes that again, another flow.
Yeah,
And maybe tomorrow we would have the same interview and it would go in a different direction.
I'm sure it would.
But it's been nourishing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.